What?
10-second countdown.
Yeah.
She knows it's Thursday.
You make that call.
There she is. Yeah, yeah. Oh, come on, we still have a minute or two.
Not according to this clock.
Well, I don't have one of those fancy ones upstairs, I just have a little cheap one.
Commissioner Mays wanted to start without you, and I said
Oh,
no.
no.
I said
Let's
no
be clear, I
way.
did not say that.
I'll tell you, it happened one time, and I walked because I got on a call or something, and I came in. But I did tell him, I won't ever do that again. And he's called, no, I was, yes, you're fine. Excuse me for being late.
You're good. Ready?
Oh, yes.
We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the March 11th, 2021 meeting for the Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners. My name is Kevin Cook. I serve as the chair of the Shawnee County Board of Commissioners and also representing District 2. Joining me today is Commissioner Bill Rippon, representing District 1. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Commissioner Aaron Mays, representing District 3. Good morning.
Morning.
I know that we have a number of individuals that are here in person. We have filled the chambers with our limited seating and our lobby area and also the cafeteria. If there are items that you wish to speak on, we will make sure that we give you ample opportunity to move from the cafeteria or the lobby to the chambers so that you can speak. And Madam Clerk, I think we're ready now for our first item.
First item number 1, proclamation presentations. A 2021 Project Topeka fundraising efforts. Stephanie Coleman.
Good morning, Commissioners. Stephanie Coleman, Shawnee County Commission Office. During the month of February, Shawnee County employees worked hard, but we also had fun raising money for Project Topeka. The IT department and I teamed up to kick off the fundraising efforts with a donut sale here in the commission, or in the courthouse. And I would like to give a shout out to Baker's Dozen. They donated 3 dozen donuts to our sale. So, the district attorney's office did a fundraiser called Pay to Wear Jeans. Human Resources, Audit Finance, and Register of Deeds also teamed up and had a Sweetheart bake sale in the courthouse right before Valentine's Day. Shawnee County Health Department took up monetary donations and also collected non-perishable food items. The Appraiser's Office and Public Works did 2 pizza and pop fundraisers. The Sheriff's Office, they did biscuits and gravy, donuts, and they allowed the civilians to do a pay-to-wear Chiefs outfits. Department of Corrections, they sold cinnamon rolls from October to February, and they also did a burrito meal deal and a fish sandwich deal. This was our big one. That's quite the favorite of county and courts employees, was our online auction, where county and courts employees donated items and then everyone was able to bid on it. So, our grand total this February was $6,454 that we will be giving to Project Topeka. I'm going to let Dan Woodard, the president of Project Topeka, say a few words.
All right, thank you very much. We really appreciate the continued support from Shawnee County employees. This is all new to me up here. The last time I was here, he was in the old areas.
Yeah.
So I'll keep this very brief. Just again, please go back and tell all the employees, we really appreciate it. Everything they've been through this past year, and hopefully everything will get back to normal next year.
Dan, can you
Yes.
tell us just a little bit about what the Project Topeka does and where
Sure.
what this will do for Project Topeka?
Sure. We support 7 local food banks, Rescue Mission, Topeka North Outreach, Let's Help, Doorstep, Faith and Fellowship Ministries, Salvation Army, and iCare. But this will help us tremendously. What we do with our monetary donations, whatever the food banks did last year, food boxes, they get a percentage, each one, you know. The small ones don't get as much as the large ones, obviously, but they can place an order at Seabrook Apple Market, whatever food items they need. When it comes in, they pick it up, I take out a check. Doesn't get any easier than that for everybody.
Right.
And it's going to the people in Shawnee County that really needs it. And they're telling us, the food banks, they're seeing people that used to drop off donations are getting help now. But hopefully everything will open back up and everybody will get back in full swing again. And to me, the money is a lot easier than leaving here with a couple truckloads of canned goods. But no, either way, we don't care as long as everybody donates and it goes to the right place.
Dan, thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for letting us continue to partner with you.
Well, we appreciate, thank you guys. Thank you for letting the employees do it.
Thank you.
On to the good stuff.
Stephanie, I want to take a moment and thank you for all of your hard work and getting this organized and keeping us all on track, too.
Absolutely.
Not a problem. Give you the important stuff. And then we would like to do a picture
Sure.
if possible. And I've got some helpers. You guys want to all come in? And Dan, you get in the middle. I'll let you hold the $6,000 check.
In there?
Can we get
I'll
in?
stand in the
Come on, Susan.
I think I'm the top.
Can you get us, Susie?
I'll wait till next time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What do you want your check on?
You can just leave it right here. Thank you, Dan.
Madam Clerk, our next item.
Item 3, consent agenda.
There are A through F, or new numbering system, so I don't know how to count through A through F, but are there any questions, or is there a motion?
Motion.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Reflect that it passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Commissioners, for approval today, we've got a voucher report totaling $842,995.22. All of these are infrastructure projects under the bridge project, Finian Terminate for $23,000. That's for the Southeast Laurel Bridge over Tecumseh Creek. King Construction, that's for $28,116. That's for the bridge on Glick Road over Ensign Creek. And then under infrastructure, we've got Ham Incorporated for $70,611.60. That's for the Southeast 45th Street project. I don't have any questions about any of these, and I would move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion for approval by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Reflect that it passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion for approval by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Reflect that it passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item B, Public Works, number 1, consider awarding bid to Vance Brothers, Inc. for up to 12,000 gallons of CRS 1H road oil in the amount of $2.20 a gallon, including delivery for use in 2021, with funding dependent upon the location of use from the road maintenance funds of Public Works, Monmouth Township, and Grove Township.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works, and I must say it's good to be back.
Yeah.
This first item is for road oil that we use in spray patching. We had 2 vendors that solicited bids, same 2 vendors that we always get. And the winning vendor submitted a bid of $2.20 per gallon. That is the same as last year's winning bid. So I'm here asking you to award this bid, Vance Brothers, $2.20 a gallon, and for a maximum of 12,000 gallons. Questions?
Kurt, the price of oil has gone up, quite significantly over the last probably 30 to 45 days. And given that this bid was probably before that time frame, does that increase in oil affect this bid at all or affect Vance Brothers in being able to deliver?
And you bring up a good point, and it was something I meant to say. This is kind of refreshing, a positive. I really thought our bids would be higher because, for example, the oil price index has increased by approximately 50 points in just the last 2 months. So I really expected higher bids. The fact that they're the same as last year, which last year was probably just at the beginning of COVID, yeah, it's a pleasant surprise.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion for approval by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Reflected, it passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item B2, consider awarding bid to Vance Brothers, Inc. for up to 280,000 gallons of RS1HM road oil in the amount of $1.91 per gallon, including delivery for use in the 2021 funding, with funding dependent on the location of use from the road maintenance funds of Public Works, Monmouth Township, and Grove Township.
This item is pretty much a duplication of the last, except the oil is different. It's used for chip seals instead of spray patching. We buy a lot more of it because we do a lot more chip seal work. Again, we had 2 vendors, the same 2 vendors as last year. Low bid was $1.91 a gallon, which is the same as last year. And so with that, I'll take your questions.
Any questions?
No, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays, reflect Commissioner Rippon as the second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? And reflect that it passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item.
Item C, Health Department, number 1, consider approval of a KDHE Epidemiology and Laboratory Capacity Cooperative Agreement, COVID-19 Infrastructure Expansion Funding Opportunity Application to assist with COVID-19 response and recovery efforts for a total request of $980,333.
Good morning, Commissioners. Teresa Fisher, Interim Director with the Health Department. Before you today is a request to apply for the KDHE, the ELC COVID-19 Infrastructure Expansion Grant, quite a mouthful, to assist in our COVID-19 response and recovery efforts. We were notified about 2 weeks ago through KDHE that this would be available for local health departments here in the state to apply for. It's a non-competitive grant. There was a base allocation of $100,000 per each health department, and then the additional allocations were based on population. So we were told that the $980,333 would be the amount that we would be able to apply for through this grant. In large part, we're planning to utilize this grant to supplement the funding for the staff that have been involved in COVID and will continue to be involved in our COVID response and recovery efforts. So that includes our newly created infectious disease division that we created last year in response to this, and then other contract staff that we also have an intermittent staff. So we've also built in a portion to cover vaccine administration and some other various costs that are all outlined in our budget that you received. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions regarding the grant?
Can any of this be used for salary, or is it?
Yes, predominantly we are using it for
that's
salaries.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions? I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Reflect that it passes 3-0. Thank you. Our next item.
Item D, Parks and Recreation, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-107-2021 with the United States Department of Agriculture to assist with the management of Canada geese causing drainage or damage and human health and safety concerns by oiling the Canada geese eggs around Lake Shawnee at a cost not to exceed $7,395.52 with funding from the Parks Operation Budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeremy Myers, Shawnee County Parks and Recreation. The item before you is for approval to work with the United States Department of Agriculture. Each year, the Kansas Department of Wildlife issues egg oiling permits, and each year we usually apply for it, and whether we can get to the egg oil or not, we do the process. But last year was our first year that we contracted with the USDA, and we felt it was a very good success. The purpose of egg oiling is to reduce the number of resident geese at our lakes and ponds. We do have in this agreement Lake Shawnee, Gage Park, Cypress Ridge Golf Course, Clarion Woods Park, and Central Park. We also do encourage that the public do not feed the geese or any wildlife. That encourages them to live there. So our population a couple weeks ago was very large, and our goal is to reduce that number of population to a manageable account. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Jeremy, do we try to do any other programs such as relocation or try to reallocate where they're at? I mean, obviously they can fly in and fly out, but what do we do outside of the oiling?
Yeah, so the oiling is done between March and May, and then we look at the number of population of geese at our lakes and ponds. If it's manageable, great, we don't need to relocate them, but last year it was not manageable. There was upwards to 300-400 geese around Lake Shawnee. And so we partnered again with the USDA and got opinions and expert opinions from the Kansas Department of Wildlife on a manageable rate. They relocated them, the geese, outside of our area, so.
Good. Other questions for Jeremy?
Yes, I'm fascinated by this all of a sudden. Do they do the oiling of the eggs, and they determine how many nests, or how many eggs, I guess, need to be
Yeah.
oiled?
Yeah, so each year we have to submit the report to the Kansas Department of Wildlife. They ask how many eggs were oiled, how many nests they found. Last year was my first year doing that, and we, as a staff, if we see a nest, we'll pinpoint it on our cartograph system, and then give that information to the USDA so they can go and locate that nest, oil the eggs, and go from there.
But they do the oiling, we don't ever.
do not.
Would they allow us to do the oiling?
I'm sure they would.
They would? Kurt can give you a heck of a deal on some oil.
Yeah. Different oil.
But,
Oh, there we go.
We'll talk, Kurt.
yeah, okay, I just had some questions.
I have a couple questions. I was probably spending too much time on this agenda
Yeah.
item, but you mentioned Gage Park. I know the zoo has some ponds. Are we in cooperation with them at all?
Not with their ponds. They also have or food feeders for the birds too, but we're mostly focused on Westlake.
Okay, and then when they're doing this, are they specifically just the Canadian geese eggs? Because I know we have ducks and swans as well. Do they do anything with that?
No, this is just focusing on the resident Canadian geese.
Okay, great. I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Mays for approval, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Reflect that it passes 3-0. Thank you. Our next item.
Item E, Stormont Vale Event Center, number 1, consider approval of request to award bid of $125,593.85 to Tartar Farm and Ranch Equipment for purchases relating to the Stormont Vale Event Center renovation project, equine livestock stalling, and panels for Domer Arena.
Good morning, Commissioners. Matt Rockers, Director of Operations, Spectre Venue Management, Stormont Vale Event Center. We are requesting approval for Charter Farm and Ranch equipment to supply Stormont Vale Event Center with 98 Expo-style horse stalls in the amount of $125,593.85. These stalls will replace the remainder that are still original to the facility and are close to 40 years old. This purchase will come out of our FF&E budget from the renovation project. We received 3 bids from 4 different companies, and Charter Farm and Ranch was the lowest. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Well, considering this facility was built in 1987, I think that we've gotten our money's worth. So, any questions?
None.
I'll move for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Reflect that it passes 3-0. Thank you. Our next item.
Item F, Commission, number 1, consider resolution number 2021-14, adopting decision settling impasse with ASTME.
Commissioners, as you may recall, 2 weeks ago, we heard a presentation from management as well as from the union representing ASTME, which work with our solid waste department and the trash haulers union. And after having executive session and discussion, I believe that we've reached an agreement, or decision rather, and then we would be issuing a written decision today that would settle the impasse and set forth a 3-year contract. There is a resolution that would be passed as part of this. Is there any discussion by the commissioners? No. I would reflect and just note that this is an unusual step getting to this point. We like to see parties coming together, and I know that, we took sides, we took the consideration from both sides and making our decision, and I think that's going to be reflected in the decision. You're going to see that there is a little bit from both sides and consideration for both sides' points, and we appreciate the hard work that's gone into both sides preparing for their presentations. So, County Councilor, is there anything additional that we would need to do outside of a motion to approve the resolution?
Just a motion.
At this time, I would make a motion to approve the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Reflect that it passes 3-0. There will be a statement made, released, and packet so that both sides would be able to review the decision. Our next item.
Item F2, review of current health order and consider resolution number 2021-15, adopting the emergency order of the local health officer.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Dr. Erin Locke. I'm the health officer, and here to present to you the changes that were made with the health order that was submitted last Friday, the 5th, but then put into effect on the 6th, that Saturday. Our definition of a mass gathering has been increased to 25 or more. This was previously 10 individuals who were together and could not socially distance. We have increased mass gatherings indoors to 500 individuals or 75%, whichever is fewer, and outdoor we have increased that to 1,000 individuals. We have removed all restrictions on bar and restaurant hours, so they can operate under their normal licensed hours. And we removed additional restrictions that had previously been placed on personal services as well as childcare, that we now ask that they follow their licensing and state guidelines for that. So those are the changes.
Okay. Commissioner Mays, any questions?
I think do we have public comment on this, or?
Yeah, we can take public comment.
I don't have any specific questions right now.
Commissioner Rippon, do you have any specific questions before public comment?
I do. I got to digging into this last night, and there were a couple things that bothered me. One was about social distancing. In the new resolution, it says social distancing, as used in this order, means keeping at least 6 feet of space between individuals. But this resolution also refers to the mask order, and they're supposed to work in concert together. And the 2020-44 mask ordinance, it defines social distancing the same as, except it says, except for infrequent and incidental moments of close proximity. And so they're really not meshing together there. And I think that's critical to have that in there, because if it's just 6 feet of space, you're really not even allowing a school to open, because that's going to happen all the time if you don't, if that's not in there. So I feel like that's something that has to be in the resolution. The other thing I looked at was, I noticed we've added a lot of whereases into the new resolution. In fact, there's about 5 new ones. And I guess my concern is that, are they needed? I mean, you think so?
I do. I actually asked that we update it to reflect the year-long pandemic and where we stand now. And so with the initial health orders that were placed in the early months, there would have been less information, and now we have more information after a year.
I just wonder where it should start or stop, though. I read through here, and it talks about, how many deaths we've had and how many cases we've had. It talks about how dangerous the virus is. It talks about recommended implementation for mitigation. It talks about a lot of things. Nowhere near does it mention survival rate. Nowhere near does it mention that we have vaccines now. Nowhere near does it talk about the therapeutics we have for people who do get it, and the great success rate we have. I think it's lacking. So if we're going to have this in there, maybe we need to have some of the strides we take. This sounds like something we would have done back in May of last year. I guess it is what it is, but to me, it just seems like we're rehashing a lot of old stuff here, and I don't know. I guess I just don't see the significance of it. But the thing that really caught my eye was the new "now therefore" that was added on there. And it says, "Now therefore, the following local requirements have been adopted and where indicated are mandatory and legally required in order for certain businesses to safely open and serve the public. Any business or entity that does not operate in accordance with these requirements is subject to closure by an order of the Shawnee County Health Officer." I have never seen that in our resolutions before.
I think I'd refer to Mr. Crowell on that.
Okay.
I apologize, Mr. Crowell, to pull you in, but I do not know on this particular paragraph. I've got the copy here, it's right here.
Yeah. Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Crowell, Shawnee County Counselor. I haven't studied the language from previous ones to this one. I can tell you that that's always been the authority of the health officer under the law, whether we state it in here or not. And if you'll remember situations that have occurred over the past year, Doug's Service Center is one of them, where the health officer in that situation determined that the premises were being operated in an unsafe manner and issued a closure order. So I can't tell you when this language came in or not without studying our previous resolutions and orders, but I can tell you that the health officer has had that authority
So that
throughout.
just clarifies it and brings it to the legal
Perhaps
standard?
it simply was someone had an idea, let's go ahead and make that clear, more clear than I think it has already become since the last year. So it is not new in terms of trying to create a new legal authority. It's a legal authority that's been present throughout.
Under the law?
Yes.
I do like a lot of the changes that have been made in here, especially on the mass gathering limits, the bar and restaurant, no restrictions on operating hours, and just those changes, what I've seen on here, I like. I'm just a little concerned about, especially the social distancing aspect of this. it just doesn't seem to mesh with the old one. And I dig my heels in on this. I think that's important.
Certainly, that would
And,
be updating that language to reflect the mask order. I would have no objection.
I don't see how schools could even open without that in there. There's just no way you can do. You're going to have that passing each other in the halls and everything. That's going to happen all the time.
And to clarify, this does not have any authority over schools. Schools follow their own recommendations and guidelines.
I realize that, but they look at our information to make their decisions. That's what they do. They've always looked at our scorecards and all that, so.
Oh, sure.
Morning, Commissioners. Dustin Nichols, Unsick Command for COVID-19 Response Team. Just regarding the definition of social distancing in the health order, the mask mandate 2020-44, that was the resolution you guys put in place last July, roughly July 9th. So that language does carry over. It's still a definition. As far as the schools go, Dr. Locke had mentioned that we don't really have an override, but they do look at our order. There's also some state language that implies that 6-foot distancing as well. So we are watching that. I do agree with you. We can make that definition the same, but just for discussion right now, the definition is the same as in the 2020-44.
Okay. I've noticed a lot of states now are opening up. There's a number of them that have just made everything a recommendation. What's your feeling on that?
That opening up is against the science and against the guidelines from our largest organizations like the CDC. And there has been feedback from those organizations that that is not a safe decision to make at this time.
You know, when you say science, science isn't always right. Science is a series of mistakes, according to Einstein. But you know, I can find science that says just the opposite. It's out there. There's plenty of experts out there from Harvard, Stanford, all these places that say no, we should open up. And so science, I can't always just stand behind science. And I just think that's another thing we need to look at is, you know, you look at all the things in science in the past where they've been wrong. You can't turn on TV at night without finding some class action lawsuit for something where science had messed up. And so I think we have to be careful when we talk about, you know, standing, this is the science on that, or this is the data, because you can find science and data that say the opposite with experts in the field. And
Certainly, I think that's when we look to what multiple experts say. A single expert here, a single expert there can be a little bit difficult to tell. But when you have all of the experts, CDC, American Medical Association, the World Health Organization, when you have the majority, all the experts saying that this is the right thing to do, that's where you can put your trust.
I've lost trust in the CDC. They've lied to us several times over the years. They told us not to wear masks. They told us to wear masks. They've backpedaled on that. And the World Health Organization has even been worse than that. But I'm not talking about just one individual. There's like the what's it called, the Bradington report. There was over 50,000 scientists and doctors signed off on that. That's a far cry from one or two individuals. So, you know, I'm feeling like at this point, I feel like we need to move this more to a recommendation than a resolution or to an order. And but that's my thought on it. Don't get me wrong, I like what you've done, but I think we're at that point where we could make this a recommendation and let the people decide. Because, you know, like the CDC came out the other day with some guidelines on when you could wear a mask after you've been vaccinated.
Certainly.
And it's terribly confusing. It's terrible. It says, oh, okay, I can be in a room with somebody who's been vaccinated if they've been vaccinated, or I can be with a family member, but it just goes on and on. It's terribly confusing. Only the government could come up with that.
I could
And-
provide clarification if you'd like.
You what?
I could provide clarification
Yep.
if you'd like.
But is that something we're aiming for now? Are we going to go to that phase where people can take a mask off if they've been vaccinated? And how do we know who's been vaccinated?
I believe that's why their recommendation is for it to be in private circumstances. When you, like a grandparent with a grandchild, those are the situations in which you know that one member has been vaccinated and the other member is low risk or has also been vaccinated. In the public, we're not quite there yet.
I don't know if I interpreted it that way, but like I said, it was very confusing. But no, I just think we're holding back a little bit too much. I think people, they want their freedom. They want to make their own decisions. I think if you made this recommendations tomorrow, I don't think you'd see a big change. I think you'd see a lot of people still wearing their masks. I think people would be taking a lot of safe precautions.
Commissioner Rippon?
Yes.
I do disagree with you on that. I know that comes no surprise, but I do disagree with you, and if we're going to go that route, I would likewise make a motion that we make all speed limits in Shawnee County a recommendation, and we make stop signs a recommendation. And we'll just let people decide how fast they want to go and whether or not they want to stop at an intersection. I think that is equally as dangerous a proposition in today's, where we're at today.
Commissioner Cook, I think, you talk about speed limits and things like that. Those are risks we're willing to take. There comes a point where, when do we stop all this? When there's not one case in Shawnee County? Is that a high enough number or low enough number? We have a survival rate. I won't use recovery because some people don't like it. We have a survival rate of 98.8%. And nationwide, it's like 99%. How much higher does that have to go before we end? What's the magic number? When do we stop? I think we're there. I just think we need to.
If there's anything else you want to add, or if we're ready to take public comment.
Okay, we're ready for public comment.
Okay. As you make public comment, given again the size of the room, if you would be willing to if you are standing, step in, step out, so that more people can come in, I would appreciate that. Thank you. As you come to the podium, please state your name for the clerk, and if you would like to make public comment regarding the health order, please do so now.
My name is Tim Scott. I'm a resident of Topeka, Shawnee County, and I agree with a lot of the things that Commissioner Rippon has mentioned here. When we started this a year ago, it was 2 weeks to slow the spread, and that morphed into tremendous restrictions on our community. Those restrictions, nobody's talking about the fallout of those restrictions. The increased suicide rate, right? The increase in substance abuse, the increase in domestic abuse and child abuse. Has anybody been keeping track of those numbers? These are all directly related to the restrictions on our people in our county. Now, what about the business closures? Have we been keeping stats on that? The bread and butter of this country and our county is small business. Who's been keeping track of the foreclosures, the bankruptcies, the closing of small businesses. Do you have the stats on how many churches have closed that will not reopen? Again, you're talking about the backbone of our community. And look at the fallout of the restrictions. Now, if you want to compare real life things that you can observe, compare California with Florida or South Dakota. Those are real numbers you can look at. And I highly would recommend and suggest that we move away from these measures that we've had so that we can once again have freedom in our county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Keisha Ross. First of all, I would like to just say, Mr. Rippon, I appreciate that you responded back to the email that I sent to all three of you. I do appreciate that I was known that I was heard. So thank you for that. To my county commissioners, I would like to take this time to please ask you to change the Shawnee County Health Order wording from mandate to recommendation. I am a Shawnee County resident as well as an American, which means that I live in a country of freedom of choice, freedom of speech, and so much more. Also, as an adult, and an adult that is responsible for making my own decisions as what is best for me and my family, I do believe at this time I've done a good job. I am in an industry where I come across probably 10 to 20 people per day. 95% of my clientele is exhausted and eager for this mandate to be lifted. Many of them are on board, or were on board at the very beginning to become safe and do what was asked of them. After a year of putting their lives on hold, with many of them have not seen loved ones for an entire year because they are afraid that they will kill their parents or whatever, it has been awful. I hear this as I have had tears in my chair from people who have not seen their families in a year. After 1 year of putting their lives on hold, with many of them having not seen their loved ones at that time because they were afraid, we've had so many conversations about doing the research yourself, trying to figure out that all the science is not right. You can look for anything. Many of them have no idea what our true numbers are and what that looks like in real perspective because that is not put out there. The other 5% of the people that I would normally see in these months, I have not seen, or I have just recently seen since the vaccine, because they are scared to death to leave their homes. They truly believe that they may have medical conditions or they're elderly and they are now homebound. We have made them homebound. I have seen so many of these people decline physically and emotionally during this time, not from COVID, being sick from it, but from the mental game that has played with them. Tell me, how are we helping those who are not living lives at this point? They are just going through the motions. I do not understand why we'd want to instill fear in people. Of course, COVID is a very real thing. I will never disregard that. However, this is not the first time America has seen a virus. I think it's time that we put our big boy pants on and use some common sense. As it is said so often that the science says this or the science says that. Remember that you can search anything you want to and Google and find the answer to meet your needs. This is where the common sense part comes in. You, as Shawnee County Commissioners, make choices for our county, and it also trickles down to our school district. I am very grateful to know that the scorecard is being reviewed and hopeful that changes are going to be made to that as our school district looks at that and makes decisions based on what the county health department is saying. My father is a commissioner for over a decade in a surrounding county. When I asked him why his county chose to use the word recommendation versus mandate, this is what he told me. He told me that the same people that elected him to be their voice, he believes that they are smart and that they can make choices for themselves. The people that still want to wear the masks in their county and want to isolate, they still have that right and that freedom. No one is taking that away from them. He also reminded me that, He also reminded me that in that case, the police and the sheriff's departments were not there to also manage the mask mandate, whether it was worn or not. There were much more important things to do than policing that. I believe in our county and our town, we have very many more things that the police and the sheriff's department should be worried about than who did and didn't wear their mask. Lastly, I would like to ask you this. With these mandates, if you keep them in place, who will be enforcing them?
this is a public comment, and typically we don't get
Okay.
into the exchange, but
Okay. Because I just want to know if that would be our sheriff's department, being the county. And if so, if they are so busy writing tickets for mask violations and such, who is expected to go to the call for the home invasion or the gunshot, the rape victim? Or do we just excuse that and say, sorry, we were on a mask mandate call? Do we enforce that? Also, with that, how will you be able to navigate through who has a medical exemption, not wearing a mask, someone who does not believe in wearing a mask, or someone who thinks they are within their limits of taking the mask off at that time? Aaron Mays, I ask you directly because I ask you to listen to the people such as myself who blackened the little circle at the voter's ballot for you. I believe that you would listen to what I have to say and that you would also take that into consideration. So I thank you for your time, and I just ask that you please lift this from a mask mandate to a recommendation. Thank you for your time.
thank you, Ms. Ross.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Sarah Weichert. I am a voting resident of Shawnee County, and I just wanted to share 2 quick personal stories that I have had relating to the mask mandate. I am an individual who is hearing impaired. I wear dual hearing aids in both ears, which means the majority of the time, in order to communicate with my children, they have to remove their masks because I read their lips. And I have been accosted multiple times in public by individuals because my children pull their mask down to speak to their mother. I also wanted to share another story. My son recently had a sleepover of, 5 or 6 boys from his local schools and other local schools. And the only reason I mention that is because I believe all these parents are smart, capable individuals who are raising their children well. But they felt that they had the authority and the discretion to make the decision to allow these boys to socialize, sleep together, eat, and play, wrestle, pillow fight for over 12 hours. I believe our parents and our business owners in a community can make that decision for themselves and for their families. So I would ask that we lift the mandate and make it a recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Phyllis Setchell. I'm a voting citizen in Shawnee County, and I've spent the last year, since we've had some extra time here and there, researching. If there's an issue that came up, anybody was talking about it, and there may be a position was the position we were taking, when I knew there were other options, I did the research. I listened, I read articles. I spent the time to do that. I do have a Bachelor of Science degree, and so I understand what they were talking about. And like the Barrington Declaration and many other groups of thousands of immunologists, researchers, MDs, doctors of all kinds, have different opinions than what we're doing. And my question is, if I'm doing that, I'm expecting my commissioners to do their own research. I've sent, I know, videos, information, articles, and I don't ever get a response, so I don't know if you're looking at them, but I would assume to make a decision, you would have to be looking at both sides of the issue, and it's not isolated. These are many people. So I'm not seeing that with this continued micromanaging of our lives. We are adults. We know most people do understand what's going on, and those who are fearful or have a need are free to do that. But making that a requirement for everyone at this point, after a year, is too much, too long. I have a chart that I found that was the Kansas resident pneumonia and influenza-related deaths by selected entire flu seasons from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. And I would like to show that. I guess I got to click on it. Here we go. Let's see. Yeah, so now we need to make it bigger. Let's see. Can you still see that?
Yep.
How do you make that scroll? It's not scrolling. You need to make it come down a little bit. Oh, there you go. Okay. All right, this is time period based on the date of death, and so the season, can't find the, pull that up a little bit. This isn't working. Anyway, you can see that the numbers are reflected for the 2018 season, the 2019, and the 2020. And I don't know why that is not going down. There we go. Okay, so we have the number of people, the percentage, but if in 2018 we have 21 people, the influenza contributing cause of death only in 2018. Okay, I can read it to you. Was 21 people in 2018 had influenza as their contributing cause of death only. In 2019, it was 24. In 2020 season, it was 0. That's influenza causing death. Influenza, which was a direct cause, was 76 in 18, 117 in 2019, and 0 in 2021 season. Pneumonia, direct cause of death, was 370 in 2018 and 376 in 2019 and 1 in 2020-21 season. Pneumonia contributing cause of death only, 973, 1,022, and 5 in 2020. What are we counting differently? This is an issue this came off at KDHE. I tried to find an updated chart with current numbers, and there is nothing that you can find with the data in this category, any of these categories, easily, and not a chart like this that I found intact, ready to go. Why is that? Why is it difficult to find information? The bottom line is we have many other doctors and people who are credible, that, and many of them, that have a different opinion than what we're doing. Other states are opening up. Over 17 or 18 other states just recently dropped their mandates. And we have counties in Kansas that have, freedom. Do we have to move to another county to get our freedom back? We do need not curtail the public any longer. It's time to lift the mandates and make them recommendations. Our COVID-19 numbers are close to the same as last year's flu season, while we had no flu season. So what was it really? So all the cases were deemed to be COVID, and flu and pneumonia were almost non-existent. So are we getting the science? I mean, science, you need to have the data to back it, and I'm not seeing that. So we want to be among the states and the counties that have our freedom back. One of the things that every elected official must do to get their position is an oath of office, the oath to protect and defend the Constitution of Kansas and the Constitution of the United States. Why is that? Why would you need to do that? You got elected, you might as well just have that office. But you have to do that because that's where our freedoms are protected. Our God-given and inalienable rights are protected by our constitutional document. And the oath was necessary because at times like this is when you need to weigh, what are we doing? I agree, and most people agree in Shawnee County, we needed to do this to start with, but not with the facts where we stand today. And to continue to do it we are just continuing this exercise of socialism where one size fits all. So I would ask you to make recommendations, let us have our liberty and our pursuit of happiness back. Thank you.
If you're wanting to speak, please come to the podium to do so.
Hello, Commissioners. Carrie Davidson, District 3. I'll be brief because I don't have any prepared remarks and I'm really nervous. I think it's time that we move this health order to recommendations instead of requirements. This is an emergency health order. I didn't bring my Merriam-Webster dictionary, so I don't know offhand what the definition of an emergency is, but I would think that it would be something that imminently threatens the health and wellness of citizens. Something like the Ebola virus or something like COVID-19 1 year ago. But I think we've kind of passed the emergency qualification of this particular threat. So I think it's time to just let the citizens decide for themselves how they're to handle their own safety. And I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Leslie Cantrell. Aaron, I am in your district. I do vote. I'm in agreement with the things that have been said so far. I don't have any statistics, but in my personal experience, there are a lot of people who have fear that won't go out, that won't exercise, they don't want to be around people. We have a lot of health, mental issues because of that, not just in our community, but across the United States. People need to start hearing truth. We also have an issue with people that are afraid to visit family. Depression has gotten worse. People that have dementia have gotten worse because they haven't been able to be with family, to have relationships. We're made to be relational people, and we're made relational. If we don't allow people to do that, then we're harming them. And if we don't allow people to exercise and in groups, then we're harming them. There are people like myself with asthma and allergies. It's very difficult to exercise with a mask on and to exercise in groups. You know, a lot of places just won't let you do that. So I really strongly would ask that you would consider not making it a mandate. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner, but there is no one out there that's somebody else here.
Is there anyone?
Good morning, Joe Holbeck. I've been up here before. I know you all know that. You know, mandates, laws are an addictive drug, gentlemen, and our country is falling prey to it. These things should be recommendations. You know, the CDC, and I hope you've seen this, the CDC on Friday published an article based on the results of mask wearing over the last, since I think March of last year through December or so, or October. And they found masks, as we're doing, mask mandates, when the mask mandate is in place for at least 100 days or up to 80 to 100 days, they are between 1 and 2% effective at reducing the speed of spread of COVID. And you're mandating that we wear that? And we can play little games about speed limit signs, but if you want to ask that question, Commissioner Cook, why aren't you asking yourself, I'm going to allow a mandate for a mask that's 1.8% effective over 100 days. Maybe I should also mandate something that's between 65 and 95% effective. That's the vaccine. Is any one of you going to make a motion to make that mandatory? I don't think you'll do that. I think you know what will happen if you do that. And that just demonstrates the hypocrisy of these mandates. Please, I can ask you to consider just turning these into recommendations and not mandates.
Problem with wearing a mask. My name is Geraldine Rao. I'm a resident of Topeka. And just want to say that I think it's time to lift the mandate and make it a recommendation. I agree with most of the people that have just spoken about it. I also like to add that I attended a funeral last week for a 21-year-old young man who died at his own hand. And I think that we're seeing a lot of that these days. I also know of a young man who's 6 years old. He's been depressed this year because he can't have a normal life. And he's let his parents know that. He's talked about being anxious and depressed. So that's just what I want to say. I just think it's time for us to get back to normalcy.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Mary Meininger, and I just want to make for the record that I'm in agreement with what these people have said. I have also made phone calls and have not received any response back. I'm a voter, and shame on me for not being so civic-minded, but I tell you what, you have awakened many people to become very much more civic-minded. It is our duty as citizens, so I'm sure you will see a lot more of us being a little more civic-minded. I also agree that if you're going to look at one side of the science, you need to look at all sides of the science. There's multiple sides. Then you need to use, I believe a young lady said, common sense to deduce what is the best for our community. I would like to ask you, if you have something that is between maybe 1% and 2% effective, would you utilize it? Would you get on an airplane if it was 1% to 2% effective? Just a thought. I don't know if it means anything, but I'm just saying, our immune system has been designed and created to be extremely effective. And we have been effective for viruses, bacteria, for many, many years before we were even born. So we need to remember that. We also need to remember that we need to abide by the Constitution. Our health department leaders, they are not voted on. They are held unaccountable to the public. Therefore, we depend on you guys. You have been voted on by the public, and we are hoping that you will take the time and the effort to do the research, not just be hand-fed by a few organizations like the CDC or the WHO organization that has no, they have no care for what's happening here in Shawnee County. But you guys do. You guys live among us. So I implore you, do your job. Our civic-minded people are waking up, okay? And we are counting on you. That's why we go to the polls and vote. I thank you so much, and I pray that you will maybe consider this, the mask mandate, no longer a mandate, but recommendations. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Amanda, is there anyone else in the hallway or?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. Commissioner Mays?
So, a lot's been said here, and as expected, and last week, we had a health order in effect that was much more strict than this. Most of the recommendations that I have made were incorporated into this, and I don't know about you guys, but I've been talking with Dr. Locke on a semi-regular basis about those things, and so I think this is a step in the right direction. She moved it up to issuing it last week instead of today, to give our bars and restaurants an extra weekend of business after 11 or was it 10 o'clock or 11 midnight. So they got the increased capacity, some good things there. This seems like the conversation was mostly directed around the mask mandate, which is not the local health order. But I think that we're kind of in a position where we're making some great progress with the vaccines that have made a significant impact in our hospitalizations and deaths. We still, I believe, have 16 people hospitalized right now as of yesterday in Topeka. So we're not 100% out of the woods. But so I'm in agreement on a lot of this stuff. I'm tired of this too. I hate COVID-19. This is absolutely the worst issue that we've ever had to deal with at the county commission, at least in my knowledge. I would love nothing more than to pretend that it never happened and go back to life as it was a year ago. We're not in that position though. But we're close, I think. And so the trajectory that we're on right now is great. And so I have two motions that I'd like to make. One is in regards to the mask mandate. I would like to address something that I think has been kind of an issue for a while. And I believe this is germane because the mask mandate is mentioned in the health order. So on the outdoor public spaces, where it says a face covering is required to be worn for individuals, I'd like to make that a recommendation. I think that requiring people to wear them outdoors is something I've had a problem with since for a long time, and I'd like to get that changed today. So on the mask mandate, I'd like to make it so they're no longer required outdoors, but only recommendations.
Is that outdoors with social distancing or in any situation?
It's item 3, public outdoor spaces. All I want to do is change the word required to recommended.
Okay.
So the motion would be to amend Resolution 2020-44, paragraph 3, to read that it is a recommendation and not a requirement.
Correct.
Is there a second to amend Resolution 2020-44, paragraph 3?
Yes.
There's been a motion made by Commissioner Mays and a second by Commissioner Rippon. Is there any further discussion? At this time, all in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0.
Okay, now, the next thing I'd like to talk about is the health order itself. And I will be making a motion here as well, but I want to kind of preface this a little bit with, again, the trajectory that we're on. I feel like we are pretty close. We've made it through first dose vaccinations with all teachers, with corrections workers, with first responders. We're now to high contact workers, I believe. Most people over 65 have gotten their first dose. And really, when I look at our statistics and our dashboard, the thing that concerns me most is the hospitalizations and deaths. Active cases, I mean, maybe I should be more concerned, but I guess that's an indicator of spread. But really, the severity of the cases that we get are what concern me most. And I feel like once folks get that second dose, or as the Johnson & Johnson becomes more and more available, just the one dose for that, that we should be getting to a place where, herd immunity could be achieved. And so with that, I think that what I'm going to do is make a motion that when we move to phase 3, all of these orders will be rescinded. And so I guess my motion would be to approve this with the definition change that Commissioner Rippon mentioned under social distancing, to add the language from the mask order about incidental contact. But once the state moves to phase 3, I'd like all of this rescinded, and I would like a new recommended guidelines issued that's not an order necessarily. Jim, if we did that, would we need to issue a new order, or could we just put guidelines?
Commissioner Mays, I just maybe kind of dissect your motion. I need to clarify it just a little bit.
Okay.
Make sure that I'm clear on what your proposal is, and make sure that I'm clear on what we would be voting on. As I've been taking notes, I believe your motion is to approve the health order of Dr. Locke that was presented on March the 5th, with the amendment to clarify social distancing to be consistent with Resolution 2020-44.
Correct.
That's the first part of your motion. The second part of your motion is that when the state of Kansas moves to phase 3 for vaccinations, the Shawnee County would become a recommendation only and not a requirement.
Correct. And I think that what I would like to see is us not make a knee-jerk reaction simply because we're talking about this on a Thursday, that this is our opportunity. What I'd like to see is a tripwire of some kind, that when we hit a certain point, that's it. That we're moving to recommendations at that time, and not necessarily just out of the opportunity.
Commissioner Mays, would you object to amending your motion to breaking this out into separate voting particles? So we would take one vote on the health order and then take a second vote on that part of the phase 3, just so that it's, or do you wish to take them all as one item?
No, I'd like to take them all as one item.
Okay. Commissioner Rippon?
I have a question.
And I guess parliamentary procedure would be, the motion has been made, and again, I'm sorry, Commissioner Rippon, I'm just getting ahead of myself just a moment. But the motion has been made by Commissioner Mays for a motion. Is there a second to Commissioner Mays' motion for further discussion?
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Mays, a second by Commissioner Rippon. Now, as far as further discussion, Commissioner Rippon.
Dr. Locke.
Yes.
What is phase 3? What are we talking about? Who's eligible for shots at phase 3?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So when we start phase 3, the shot eligibility will expand to individuals age 16 to 64 who have what are considered severe medical risks. This would be individuals with heart failure, individuals born with Down syndrome, individuals who have had an organ transplant, for example. That's not limited to them, but that's the group of individuals.
Okay. And where are we now? We're at phase
We are at
2
phase 2B.
B. And
And
how
I-
many other letters are there under B?
Just B.
Okay.
So phase 3 will be next, and I anticipate, I've heard from the state that we would be moving into phase 3 in a few weeks. They said beginning of April approximately. Of course, things always change when it comes to that, but.
And I'll just add, I believe it'll be sooner than that, based on the trends. I mean, when you look at the amount of vaccine that we were getting a month ago compared to what we're getting today, I mean, it's substantially more. And I mean, they said they just bought another 100 million doses of Johnson & Johnson yesterday is what they announced. So I would assume, and then their partnership with Merck has got more of it coming out. I think we're going to be there probably faster than that, at least with first doses for everybody. And I think we're getting to a point where we're going to have more doses than people willing to take them at some point, and that's the goal. So,
Are we getting our vaccines in as quick as are we vaccinating people as quick as we're getting supplies?
Yes, sir.
And you can take on more if it comes in?
Oh, yes.
All right.
Commissioner Mays, one concern that I have, for a 46-year-old individual such as myself with no underlying health conditions, if I do not use a exemption as a county commissioner, if I do not use an exemption as a attorney working with the indigent public, if I don't use any of my other exemptions, according to our Shawnee County health guidelines, I would not be able to be vaccinated until approximately winter of 2021. That's on the current time schedule. So there's a lot of individuals that fall far below phase 3. And again, I have not had my vaccination yet, and again, having been asked by KSNT on the air, thank you KSNT, when I had an opportunity early on, I thought it was necessary to have somebody who was much more at a higher risk to be vaccinated. I am looking forward to being vaccinated when that opportunity presents itself.
So I would, if I may.
Yeah.
I would say, in regards to that, I mean, they've declared that they're going to have enough vaccine issued by this summer that anybody who wants it can get. Anyone over 16 or 18, I think it is, would be eligible to get it. So, I mean, I don't think you're going to have to wait till winter. I think it's going to be soon enough. And, you know, we're now to the point where, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but the over 65 population is pretty much done. Is that, I mean, with the exception of folks that just choose not to?
That's correct. We've vaccinated over 20,000 65 and older, and it has started, the demand for the slots has started to slow. We believe there's approximately 33,000 65 and older in the county based on census data.
What is the average age of people who have died of COVID in Shawnee County?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I would say I don't know the average off the top of my head, but certainly the older you are, the highest risk you are.
Would you say 70 is a good number, 75?
I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to
Okay.
say anything false. I do know that if you are 85 and older and you get COVID, about 23% have died in that age group. We did case fatality rates recently.
Again, this is where what I'm coming from is that, like she's mentioned, that the highest risk folks are people over 65 primarily. Folks with health conditions are certainly a concern. I feel like there is a way that some of those folks have probably already gotten vaccines or certainly in the pipeline to do so through their healthcare providers. And so I feel like by the time we hit phase 3, we should be in we're in a good spot now, in my opinion, but I think we're going to be in a very good spot right then. And it would be time, again, I know that we need to just, I don't want to just make a rash decision. I feel like this is putting some sort of an end game in mind, though. Otherwise, you know, I don't want to have these conversations on a bi-weekly basis as we have for the last year. I think we're now to the point where cases are dropping 20 to 30% each week. I mean, we're doing well. I think we're pretty almost to the point where we can declare that we are out of the woods. So,
Dusty, I see that you're.
Just getting some data on your question, sir. It looks like the fatality rate over 65 is 13%. Over 65 is 13% on fatality.
It's 13% of the fatality.
That's what I just got back. I'm actually here to.
That doesn't sound right.
Actually came up to ask the question on your motion. It would just be a blanket if, when we go to phase 3, when the state says go to phase 3, everything, mask mandate, health orders, everything that we've talked about goes to recommendations. No,
correct.
No discussion, just automatic as soon as it goes to 3, regardless of the situation, or a review of the situation prior to. That's what I'm kind of stuck on.
The motion was everything would go to recommendation at that point. Unless something crazy happens with our cases, but I don't envision that. And I think, I mean, obviously, I understand people want to proceed with caution. I want to proceed with caution as well. But I do think that we're now to the point. And again, like I said, I want nothing more than this to go away. We're not quite there yet, but we will be very shortly, I think. And so I feel like this is a good way for the public to know this is what needs to happen, and we all work together to make it. So
I mainly wanted to clarify because it'll change how the team dynamic works in our strategic planning. So if it's sorry about that. So if it's a automatic, we have to adjust how we do things as well. So just wanted to clarify.
Is there further discussion? Is there public comment? I'll take a moment to see if there's anyone in the hallway. Okay. Seeing that there is no additional public comment, the motion, and again, for clarification, make sure that I have it correct with our clerk, is that the motion made by Commissioner Mays is to approve the health order issued on March the 5th of 2021, adding in clarification that it will be consistent with Home Rule Resolution 2020-44 in regards to social distancing. In that further, that when the state of Kansas moves to phase 3 for vaccination, all health orders issued by this board and the health officer will become recommendations only and not mandatory. Does that correctly encapsulate your motion?
yes.
The motion was made by Commissioner Mays and second by Commissioner Rippon. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. I say Commissioner Rippon.
I may be opposed to this. I just feel like we've oppressed people long enough. I can't ride the fence any longer, so I'm going to vote no.
I am also a no, but mine is for a separate reason, in that I would want us to review when we pass to phase 3 to make sure that it is consistent with where we are at as a county. Applying a statewide mandate that may apply to Hayes is different than what would apply to Topeka. And so I think that we need to look at where we are at before we would make it from a mandate to a recommendation. So there is 2 no votes. The motion fails. Commissioner Mays.
Okay, so we'll vote that down. That's fine. But de facto, I think we're going to pass it. whether it's in writing or not, I'm going to say publicly that when we go to phase 3, I'll vote that way. So
I would vote that way too.
So at this time, I would make a motion to adopt the health order issued on March the 5th of 2021 with the recommendation for the clarification to be consistent with Home Rule Resolution 2020-44 in regards to social distancing. I'll take that up just first, adopt that, that motion made. Is there a second to that?
yes, I'll second that.
Okay. Is there-
With the definition change, did you
Yes,
say that? Okay.
yes. And so is there any other discussion? Motion made, Commissioner Rippon.
When would we review this again?
The health orders officer issued on March the 5th is for a 30-day period, and it would expire then on, is it April the?
Oh, I apologize. I think it says it in here, but somewhere around the 5th probably. Where is that? Yeah, you tell me, Mr. Crowe.
If we approve this, then we wouldn't review.
Oh, it is. It's
could we
April 9th.
review it
Mhm.
earlier than that?
Yes,
Yeah.
we always have that ability to review it
Mm-hmm.
earlier.
Yeah, I think the final line says it can be rescinded or amended
Mm-hmm.
at any time.
Correct.
So we
have the ability to come
and
back.
I would ask that you commit to putting it on the agenda as soon as that happens.
Yes. So motion made by Commissioner Cook to adopt the health order with the clarification, second by Commissioner Mays. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay.
Opposed.
Reflect that it passes 2-1 with Commissioner Rippon dissenting. Now, Commissioner Mays, I'm not opposed to taking up a review of our health order and looking at moving from mandates to recommendation when the state moves to phase 3. But I don't want it to be an automatic flip of the switch of the state telling us when we're going to go to phase 3 or recommendation. I think that as a county, we need to review where the county's at. So if you want, I would be supportive of a motion to review all health orders becoming a recommendation when phase 3 occurs.
And that's what I'd like to do.
Okay.
In Shawnee County?
In Shawnee County. Clarify,
Wait.
we have no control over anybody else.
Wait,
So is
what-
that part?
I don't know, I'm not sure exactly what you're saying.
So-
but
Motion would be then, if the Shawnee County Board of Health, or Shawnee County, Jim is our proceduralist. Again, I know that we're
I've heard two different
Okay.
discussions, one about the state of Kansas going into phase 3 versus Shawnee County going into phase 3, which could be different. So in terms of drafting, I wanted to make sure I knew which one we were relying on.
So that portion was not in your motion. So, I mean, I think it's just semantics at this point. And we're going to be, I mean, I don't think a motion needs to be made that we're going to do that. I think it's just a commitment that the chairman will put it on the agenda when that time comes.
and I can commit to that.
I mean, I think that's all we need at this point. I don't think it requires another motion.
Okay, then I
I
will.
don't think it requires a motion.
Then I have a commitment then, Commissioner Mays, that when we pass to phase 3, whether it is the state or the county, regardless, when either body passes to phase 3, we will review our health orders.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other motions to come before this board? Dusty, I'm looking at you.
I'm just, again, I just want to put in a reminder, and you guys know this, but this is just for the public too. We review constantly the scorecard, the community index, whatever product that we're using, all those variables that are coming into place, and Commissioner Cook mentioned it, and I think all three of you mentioned it at some point. We are different from Hayes or Dodge City or any other county, so we are very specific, specifically looking at our county. So it's a constant review. We're not going to wait to review. If anything happens earlier and the state is held up going to phase 3 because of another county, we will still provide information to you guys so you can bring it up a little earlier and have be prepared for that. And again, you know this. I just want everybody to know we're constantly running. This team's constantly working, and the technical advisory board, the docs will work with Dr. Locke and the hospitals. It's a moving, constantly moving part. So just wanted to clarify.
It's local and conditional. It always has been.
Yeah.
Are there any other motions or discussion of the health order for this agenda item? Okay. Seeing none. Madam Clerk, our next item.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
Is there anyone wishing to address the commission on any item?
I would like to give an update on the vaccines.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, so I know we've already discussed the vaccines to some extent, and I did want to just share that it continues to go very well. The county is receiving approximately 5,000 doses every week. This is through all of the channels, the VA, the pharmacies, Grace Med, and the collaborative, which is with the health department. Of those 5,000, about 3,500 are coming through the health department. So just to give sort of this is where we are. It has increased since I was here, telling you about that a couple weeks ago. We estimate that approximately 40,000 individuals in Shawnee County have been vaccinated thus far with at least their first dose. This includes all of the phase 1, who are all the healthcare workers, as well as Commissioner Mays had said, our K through 12, our first responders, our child care, and those individuals. We are not yet approaching sort of that herd immunity if we look at our total population, but we are certainly moving in the right direction, and the more vaccine we get, the closer we'll get. So that's very exciting, and we are tracking that. We announced yesterday that we are going to be entering into phase 2B, which expands into what is deemed the high contact critical workers as outlined to us by the state. And I'm going to show you a little bit more what that means for us moving forward. But we have received an estimate that this could be 25,000 individuals. And so at our current rate of allocation, it would take us 4 weeks or so to get through them. But we are hopeful that it will be less because of increases in vaccine. And then, as we had already discussed, phase 3 will follow, which will begin the high medical risk individuals under 64 and other critical workers. And so I'm going to actually touch on that. Okay, I understand. There we go. Okay, so this is a bit of a confusing piece to the phase rollout, and so I really wanted to bring some clarity to it for individuals who work in our county, in all critical workers. So to start with, we are using a definition of a critical worker that is provided by the Department of Homeland Security. So they have a document, they have listed it out, and they are very clear about who falls in critical workers. So that's the first sort of bar you have to pass to be able to be in this group. Now in phase 2, they've set another bar. You need to be high contact. And they define high contact as requiring consistent and close contact with a large number of individuals. So that does mean that there are critical workers who are not included in phase 2. So I'd like to put that out there so that everyone is clear. The state has provided examples of which critical workers fall in this category. So that's food processing and distribution, which I'd like to point out does include our restaurants and our bars, people who have been in really risky work environments up until now. It's our first responders, which we've already completed, and it's transportation. And this includes even taxis and the Uber and Lyft, but also our airports, our railroads, and so on. Phase 3, which is, as we've mentioned, is next, are those critical workers who work in person. So they are unable to work from home. And the state has told us that that includes people who work in communications or information technology, housing, shelter, finance. This is not the entire list, but this is who that is. And then there are critical workers who are able to work from home, and they have been placed in Phase 5. So just so everyone is clear that critical workers who can work from home are in the 5th phase, the last phase. And this is just the a couple slides from the state's guidance. And so here you've got the Phase 2 high contact critical workers. And then this is Phase 3, and this is critical workers who must operate in person. So that's where that describes it there. This can still be very confusing for everyone, and so the county has made it we've tried to clarify for individuals, and so this is what we shared in our press release yesterday. So any individual who works in these industries, as I mentioned, food processing, distribution, transportation, and our large-scale aviation manufacturing. If you work in an industry like that, you get a vaccine. So, for example, if you are in a restaurant, it does not matter if you are a cook or you are a waiter or you bust the dishes. Because you work in that industry, you get a vaccine. There is a separate category for people who work in specific roles. And this was, as I mentioned, outlined by the state. These are individuals that don't fit into the industry, but themselves are critical and high contact. And so any cashier in any retail, anybody who works at a counter, whether it's a cosmetic or like a jewelry counter, you can think of those kinds of examples. Clergy, librarians, anybody who is a worker who like lives with other workers on a farm or a ranch or shares the truck and transportation. This has been found to be a high-risk situation where there have been clusters, and so they fall in this as well. Higher education, so this would be like our Washburn. The faculty and staff are included. And then we have a category for government continuity, and of course we have many different departments within our government, and this will be those who are in high contact, and so we've been working directly with those departments to determine who that is. Any questions or thoughts?
Commissioner Mays?
So let's say hypothetically, I own a restaurant and I don't open until 11 o'clock in the morning. Is there a way that I could schedule all of my employees to come in between 8 and 11 on the same day and just get it done?
Yeah, thank you. That's an excellent question. I should have answered that up front. We have opened up scheduling so that any individual can schedule their vaccine at any of our vaccine distribution points in the county. So at the health department, at Stormont Vale, anywhere that a vaccine is being provided. However, employees do have the option to work with us to schedule all of their employees through like one site. And so there are specific employers who are working with one of our vaccine collaborative partners, the hospitals and so on, to get their employees vaccinated.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Rippon?
No questions.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to address the commission? Going once? Going twice? Commissioner Rippon?
Well, I went to the first round of the Big 12 tournament. Cats won, so hopefully they win again tonight. That's all I have.
I heard there was some wild excitement coming from that direction, so.
It was incredible to be in a stadium that holds 19,000 people, and I don't think there was probably 700 or 800 people in there. It was bizarre at best.
Commissioner Mays?
I just want to wish congratulations and good luck to both of my alma maters. Topeka High girls basketball is in the Final Four. They play tomorrow night. And Washburn Ichabod's made the NCAA tournament and won the MIAA tournament last week with an amazing three-quarter court shot by Tyler Guyman to win the game. It looks like there's a good chance they play the same teams that they beat in the MIAA tournament in the NCAA. So good luck to them. It's great to see what Coach Ballard's done with that team.
Yes, indeed. I just want to take a moment. I know that our health workers get a lot of attention, but I just want to extend my appreciation to everything that at the health department, our workers, our volunteers. They really have been in the forefront of the crossfire of this from the beginning and have done so, worked hard and diligently, often quietly behind the scenes without a lot of attention, but just really want to extend my heartfelt appreciation for everything that they do. So, Madam Clerk, our next item.
Item 6, executive session.
There is a need for an executive session for 15 minutes regarding personnel matters of non-elected personnel, specifically the Director of the Shawnee County Health Department, and for consultation with the attorney for the body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. And let's say that we begin in at 10:50. Just give us 10 minutes if we need to take a quick break. So that's a motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Reflect that it passes 3-0.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Anybody?
Okay, well, you just tell me when.
Go ahead.
We are back from executive session. No action was taken. We are adjourned.
Okay. I got a couple resolutions here for, I love it, you